Hello, in this video I will explain how to find the derivative when only given tables, charts, or graph. So yeah, okay. So let's say you do have, they give you a chart and they want to find the derivative. So how do you evaluate the derivative of a function when you don't even know what the function is? How do you find a derivative when only given a table, rules, or a graph? So in this video, I will show you how to find the derivative when only given a table, graph, or rules. So you before we go any further, you must know or review these three rules: the product rule, f prime of g prime, f prime of g plus g prime of f. Quotient rule, we'll definitely might have to use quotient rule, f prime of g minus g prime of f all over g squared, and then the chain rule. Okay, so let's do example one. So in example one, they give you a table, right? A table. On this table, you have f of x, or on this column, you have x, and then on this column, you have f of x, and then on this column, you have f prime of x, and then this column, g of x, and then this column, g prime of x. So it looks like we got to find g prime of x when the x value is 2. So that's why I put a question mark. I think that'll be the last question of this example. But the first question says, we are given p of x equals x times f of x. We must find p prime of 2. So as you recall, p prime, our first derivative, is the slope of tangent when x equals 2. Okay, so I just want to review, like this is how you read the table. So over here, -2 and f of x. F of x is like the y value, the same thing with g of x. It's like a y value. So you could think of this as a coordinate, -2, 4. Right? That is a point. So we got to find p prime too. So first I got to find p prime of x. So they only give you this. So how do you find p prime of x when you were given x times f of x? Well, you're going to have to use the product rule, right? There are two things that are multiplying, so you're going to have to use product rule. So x could be our f, and f of x could be our g. So according to the product rule, it's f prime of g plus g prime of f. Okay, so let's do that. If f, so if our f is x, f prime would be 1. If my g is f of x, my g prime would be f prime of x. Okay, so apply product rule. F prime is 1 times regular g, which is f of x, plus g prime is f prime of x, times f, which is x. So if you kind of clean this up, 1 times f of x is really f of x, plus f prime of x times x, that's really x times f prime of x. Okay, and then what I would have to do is plug in your x value too. So wherever you see an x, plug in 2. So f of x, this is like f of 2, plus x is like 2 f prime of 2. Okay, this is not our answer because remember, our final answer will be a constant because the slope of a tangent is always constant. So this is where we're going to need our table. So first we got to find f of 2. So let's look at the column f of x, and then the column x here is 2. The f of x is -1. So f of 2 is -1. Plus 2 times f prime of 2. So let's look at the column f prime, and then the x value is 2. So that spits out a 5. Okay, so when you put it all together, you have -1 plus 2 times 5 is 10, and minus 1 is 9. Okay, so that is my final answer, 9. Okay, let's do b. We have q of x equals 3 times f of x times g of x. We got to find q prime of -2. As you can see, q prime is not in our table. So first I'm going to do is find q prime of x. And how would I do this? Well, if you set it product rule, that's correct. So 3 is a constant, so you could just take that out for right now. And now you have f of x times g of x, right? So how do we take the derivative of the bracket, inside bracket? You apply product rule, right? So it's f prime of g plus g prime of f. So my f is f of x, and then my g is g of x. Okay, so f prime is f prime of x, and then g is g of x, and then g prime is g prime of x. Okay, so apply product rule, so it's 3, and then it's f prime, which is f prime of x, times regular g, which is g of x, plus g prime, which is g prime of x, times f, which is f of x. Okay, now what I'm going to do is plug in my x value, -2. F prime of 2 times g of, whoops, not positive 2, -2, right? G of -2 plus g prime of -2 times f of -2. So this is where we're going to need a chart. So what is f prime of -2? F prime -2 is -1 times g prime of -2. Here's g prime, -2 gives you an output of 6. G prime of -2, g prime is here, -2 spits out 6. And then f prime of -2, oh, we already know that, that's -1. Okay, so put it all together, we have 3, -6 times 1 is -6, plus 6 times -6 is -6. That's 3, and then -6 plus -6 is -12, which is negative. I must have made a mistake. Yeah, I made a mistake right inside. Let me redo this part. Okay, so find f prime of -2. F prime of -2 is -1. G prime of -2 is +6. Yeah, I guess, yeah, I think I was right the first time. G prime of -2 here's the g prime, and then the x value, -2 is, yeah, +6. Plus g prime of -2, that's +6. And then f prime of -2 is -1. No, I made a mistake. Sorry. It's g of -2. G of -2 is not, I was looking at the wrong column. So g of -2 is 5. Good. Plus g prime of -2 is, g prime -2 is +6. And then f of -2 is 4. Put it all together, -1 times 5 is -5, plus 6 times 4 is 24. So that's 3, oops, +3, and then 24 minus 5 is 19. 19 times 3 is 57. Okay, so that's the answer for B. Okay, C, and then, so C, we have R of X equals F of X over 5G of X, and, oh, I didn't say what we have to find. We have to find R prime 0. Okay, so what can we do? We gotta use the quotient rule to find R prime, right? So that's what I'll do. So do R prime of X. Wait, actually, let's rewrite this problem as R prime, but like, let's rewrite this as, to make it easier, R of X. This is equivalent to saying 1/5 of F of X over G of X, right? Okay, now we can take the derivative. So we will have to use the quotient rule. So the quotient rule is F prime of G minus G prime of F all over G squared. So first we got to figure out F and our G. So my F is the numerator, which is F of X, and then my G is just G of X. So F prime is F prime of X. G prime is G prime of X. Okay, so apply the quotient rule F. So ignore the constant 1/5. We'll distribute that later. So F prime is F prime of X times G, which is G of X, minus G prime, that's G prime of X, times F, which is F of X, all over G squared, so that's G of X squared. Okay, and then we plug in 0. F prime of 0 times G of 0 minus G prime of 0 times F of 0 all over G of 0 squared. Okay, so let's look at our chart. What is F prime of 0? Here's F prime column, and then 0 gives you an output of -3. So F prime of 0 is -3 times G prime of 0. So G prime, I mean, not G prime, but G of 0. Here's the column G. 0 has an output of 8. Minus bracket, G prime of 0 is, if you, G prime of 0 gives you a product of -5 times F of 0, which is -6. And then G of 0 is 8. Okay, put it all together. Negative 3 times negative 3 times 8 is negative 24, minus bracket negative 5 times negative 6 is 30, over 8 squared is 64. And we're still timesing this everything by 1/5. Negative 24 minus 30 is negative 54 over 64. And we still got to times it by 1/5, which is negative 54 over 320. And you can divide this by 2, so that would be negative 27 over 160. And so that's the answer. That one. Let's do D. Find, we have S of x equals f of g of x. F of g of x, find s prime of 1. So this one, you kind of have to use the chain rule. So if you recall, chain rule is, in order to take the first derivative, we do got to apply the chain rule. So chain rule is f prime of g of x times g prime of x, right? So s prime of x is f prime of g of x times g prime of x, right? So now we got to plug in 1, s prime of 1. So it's f prime of g of 1. Well, actually, this should be 2 parentheses times g prime of 1. Okay, so what you do is do the inner parentheses first. So what I'm going to do is first find g of 1. So if you look at your table, g of 1 is, here's g1 gives you, spits out a 2. So g of 1 is 2. So it's going to be f prime of 2 times g prime of 1. Here's g prime. A positive 1 spits out a 3. This is 3. Then what we have to do is do this part. What is f prime of 2? F prime of positive 2 gives you, spits out a 5. Times 3, which is 15. Okay, the next one, okay, so that's the answer for D. So on this one, we had to apply the chain rule. Let's do E. So we have T of x equals 2 minus f of x over g of x. So how do we take, they want you to find, and they also tell us that T prime of positive 2 gives you 4. And they want you to find g prime 2. So how would I do this? I got to find g prime of 2. So what I would do is first find the first derivative t prime of x, right? So that's what I'm going to do. First find t prime of x. And how do we do that? So we have a fraction, so we're going to use quotient rule. So the numerator is f, and then the entire denominator is g, right? So if you recall, quotient rule is f prime of g minus g prime of f all over g squared. Okay, so my f is 2 minus f of x, and my g is g of x. So f prime, the derivative of this would be, the derivative of 2 is constant. The derivative of negative 5x is just negative f prime of x, right? right? The derivative of 2 is 0. The derivative of negative 5x is negative f prime of x. And then g is g of x, and so g prime is g prime of x. Okay, so now you apply the quotient rule. So quotient rule is f prime of g. So f prime is negative f prime of x times regular g, which is just g of x, minus bracket g prime is g prime of x times f, which is just 2 minus f of x all over g squared. Then I'm going to plug in t prime of 2. So g of 2, so g2 squared. So f prime of 2, if you look at your chart, it gives you 5. G of 2, if you look at your chart, it should give you 1. And then you still have this minus, so bring down that minus bracket g prime of 2. If you look at your chart, it should give you I'm not sure. Let's look at the chart. G prime of 2 is there's g prime column of positive 2. Oh, it's unknown, right? I'm not sure, so we'll just leave it as g prime of 2 right now. I think that's what we're trying to find g prime of 2, yes. So we'll just leave it as alone. And then it's 2 minus f of 2. F of 2 is negative 1. All over g of 2 squared. So g of 2 is positive 1, and then we have to square it. And then what we could do is we could say that t prime of 2 gives you an output of 4, so you can just replace t prime of 2 with 4. Plus 4 equals 5 times 1 is 5 times negative 1 is negative 5 minus 2 negatives becomes a positive, so that's 3. So that's 3 g prime of 2 all over 1. That's negative 5 minus 3 g prime of 2 over 1. And then your goal is to solve for g prime 2. So what I would do is you could ignore the 1 on the bottom because anything divided by 1 is just 1, right? So if you want, you can just ignore the 1. So this could be expressed as negative 5. And then continue for solving for g prime 2. I would have to add 5. This would be 9, negative 3 g prime of 2. To solve for g prime 2, so I have to get rid of this negative 3 by dividing both sides by negative 3. So I get g prime of 2 is 9 divided by negative 3 is negative 3. So that's your final answer. G prime of negative 2, that's all they want. G prime of 2 is negative 3. Okay. So that was example 1. And we'll just we'll do example 2 in another video. Okay. I'll end here. Thank you.